Okay, so on minimalism, and you know, I guess when I was living in San Francisco, and for many years, like 10 years, I guess, I accumulated a lot of stuff, a lot of things that I didn't actually need, and but that I did get joy out of it, and then lost joy, and then became a burden, and then became kind of an annoyance. And I always thought that it would be so difficult to get out of having so many things. I was always afraid of the day where I would have to move and get rid of everything, right? Or figure out how to move because I just amassed so many things. And some of the stuff um, I do think was valuable and useful to know that I would want to get back, right? Like once I got rid of it, I could actually see that I like high-end headphones and speakers and a big TV as a computer monitor and a nice chair and a nice ergonomic keyboard. But other than that, there's very other few things that I would actually classify as like really, really worth it. But I love natural history, so I had a huge collection of artifacts that I loved. I also loved sci-fi and like, Marvel and comics and all these things. So I had all these little toys and video games and all these things that at the end of the day they collect dust, right? Even though I love looking at them, like I think of stores kind of like museums, right? Because if you go to some high-end collectible store or even a store in general, sometimes the stores are so great that they rival some of the local museums. Because I love museums too. Like I think San Francisco museums are underrated. I love the museums, the Legion of Honor, the Natural History Museum, um, and I'm forgetting the names now exactly, but they have some amazing ancient skulls in there from different tribes. I just love that type of stuff. It's like the really odd, weird stuff is what I loved looking at, and so I've always, you know, had a fascination for natural history and museums in general. But and then minerals and like I guess what do you call them, fossils and things like this, right? But after having to give up all my books and all my little artifacts that I love, now I love the complete opposite. Like I had so much stuff that it was just basically hoarder level, collector level insanity. And now I have basically just a backpack. I started my journey with just like a suitcase, but I basically realized that I didn't like carrying a suitcase in a backpack, and I realized I didn't really need as many things as I thought I would. And so just a backpack that I can take out as a carry-on, but sometimes in certain countries like Asia, it goes over the limit because it's like 10 pounds or 10 kilograms, I guess, or 9 kilograms around there, and the limit is usually like seven. I would add to what I have now. Even now, I'm considering carrying two laptops, one Windows slash Linux and another one Mac, and just so I could be creative on the Mac side of things, right, and create apps and things like this. Even though I can do some apps with the Expo, I think doing some stuff native would be something I would want to do, but it's not necessary. I think it's always about like what are the bare minimum things that I um that I need. And for me personally, one that most people won't probably need to carry is just to have a miniature scale that I carry that is really not like a normal size scale, but I just weigh myself all the time because even during this journey of just visiting different countries and finally being able to travel a little bit, or not able, but allowing myself to do some traveling, I taking the opportunity to do that, I think has been great. But I have a tendency to have a problem with eating, right? And during this journey, I started to gain weight again, and so it was like pretty shocking how quickly I could gain like a lot of weight really quickly back. So that's always going to be a problem for me, just the weight thing. So maybe I should make another video about that. I mean, not video, but a recording about that too. Um, so anyway, back to the minimalism stuff. I basically carry. I actually gotten pretty good about trying to figure out what to carry, right? Like underwear, shirts. I think I carry too many. I should count them up, but it's maybe less than five now. And stuff actually starting to wear out because I used to buy a lot of clothes, and I will never understand the idea of my clothes wearing out. But now I've actually worn things out. Like I've worn out some jeans because I just wear basically the same pair. I have two pairs that I carry, but I only like the way one feels and fits. I think the other one's too rigid and not comfortable. I have it as kind of a backup in case I need to wash the other one, right? I would probably switch it out to like shorts, and I think that with zippers. I think that's my plan. But I don't like really consuming anything. I don't like anymore, right? I don't buy any souvenirs or anything like this. I don't have to. I mean, I literally can't carry that many more things. I have thought about adding like a small creative tool kit, uh, which is kind of like a over exaggeration. Right now, it's just a pen, some paper, and a marker, right, with the thicker side and the lighter side. And I love this marker, and then I had to buy some plastic tape because yeah, some tape because my debit card started to peel away, and I would have to get a new one while I'm abroad, and I didn't want to do that. So I just to prevent it from completely peeling as quickly as possible, I bought some tape. But then I realized that tape and scissors are really actually a cool tool that are very affordable, and I don't feel too bad about having to leave them behind, right? When I move, but I think I will buy that again, especially if I'm gonna be in a place for months. And so I I've been minimalizing as much as possible. Like I used to carry more phones, but for one, they started to degrade. Like I used to carry a lot of phones because I just had a bunch of phones from before. Like I used to carry two iPhones, two four Android phones is crazy, right? But I used to carry four Android phones in my backpack. Now I carry two, one as a backup, two Android phones, and just an iOS device because I my Android phones I got in a great deal for $40 each, and they're Samsung phones. They're good enough for me as the daily drivers. The problem with them is they don't accept eSIM, so I I usually use the iPhone while I get a local eSIM. But even that, I've been I've been okay with sometimes not having to have a SIM, right? Like I just download a local map onto Google, and then or the next city I'm going to, and then just navigate with that as my backup in case my phone doesn't work. But it has worked so far. Like I have a global SIM that I pay per year. It's like 30 or $40, I guess, per year for very low data. Um, and that's just worked really awesome. So I've been minimizing other aspects as well, like my Gmail was overflowing, and I was paying not a lot, like literally just $2 a month. But eventually I realized I don't even need this, right? So I guess I backed it up, and then I deleted all the spam, and it was so freeing. And now I have a cool system that I like in my minimizing of email. Sometimes I make mistakes, right? Like I miss important things, quote unquote. But I have a system now where basically I tag emails that I think I might need to keep, but are not really actual important things that I don't need to keep for that long. Say a couple, like I need it because flight reservation, right? And so what I'll do is I'll tag it with like delete by, if it's April right now, maybe June. So I don't need it for like immigration or anything like this. I can just have my months that are coming up, have a delete at the end of June, delete at the end of July, delete at the end of blah, or delete at the end of the year 2000, or delete at the beginning of 2016, for example. It's one of my tags. And so I just tag everything, and then I go through my tags and I delete them at the end of the beginning or the end of the month, and make new ones. So even that I think was maybe too granular. I think it's okay to do it at the end of the year because I can have a little bit more buffer. So I've been kind of using the delete at the end of the year more than the month one. and so just minimizing my digital stuff as well, because I think my email was so cluttered. I was always so scared of it because it had quote unquote important information on it. Like one of the hardest things is just to minimize like the the more sentimental things. That's what many people struggle with. I liked one of the things I did like to visit are the Lucid subreddit for like weight loss type of subreddits and the minimalist subreddit on Reddit. I think they're like good communities that kind of feed into positive habits for me, like what I consider a positive habit, not extreme. I guess some people might consider my current minimalistic style extreme, but I think it's fine for me for now. I still need things, right? That's why I have Airbnbs or hotels that have things in them. I still need certain things, and sometimes I miss certain things, like a fridge. I don't have one now, but it's one thing I would want, right? Like now that I'm thinking about it, when I was living in San Francisco for the longest time, I didn't have like a big fridge, and I just had a small fridge during COVID. Partly not to bother my landlord, partly because I didn't want, I don't know, my landlord to come in during that time. Just like I honestly, partly because even though my landlord was really cool and he knew how much stuff I had, I just never liked how much stuff I had. And there was times when I was really proud of the stuff I had at home. It was really nicely displayed, but there was times when it wasn't nicely displayed and it was chaos. But at the end of the day, I did eventually get it to like a really nice place, and the whole journey of like selling everything and deciding when how quickly to sell it or to put stuff in storage or not, or what things are sentimental that I want to keep. I only kept very few things. One which was shared with family where they would want that stuff too, because we grew up with certain things like namely like a Dragon Ball Z stamp book and some Pokemon cards, right? But my yearbooks and all that stuff was hard to get rid of. I basically just took photos of them and maybe hopefully did a good enough job of backing them up. A high school yearbook and stuff like this that I consider sentimental, but I don't need to have the book necessarily. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of what stuff that I actually kept. Maybe my diploma for graduating college and any important documents as well. But even now, I've made mistakes of stuff that I've collected. But since I'm trying to minimize my spending and not working at the time, I um, I try to use what I have, even though I could replace it with a better version. Like I have a coat that is really raggedy now, but it still works, right? Like I have a really awful umbrella too, that still works. But I would get a better version if I wasn't the spending. But at this point, I think my mentality, hopefully, which can stick, is that I can replace things and not just add things, right? Because that's my tendency even now, all the time. Like even plastic water bottles, right? Like which I know are bad for us. And I did used to carry a metal one, but it was hard to clean, and I think it was just like not getting used. So I decided to let go of that. I right now redundancies that I don't like is I carry AirPods and I carry some wired headphones that usually the airlines will give you, and so I just keep one pair of those. And sometimes they'll die, so I'll get a replacement, and they're really cheap if I wanted to buy them myself. But at the end of the day, I have more cables before too for charging my phone. But then I realized I only need one version of the cable and maybe a backup, like a small one, in case for some reason it actually does die. So I do carry two of the same version of the cable for like the iPhone and for the iPad. And for my Android phone, I also carry two versions, one short one and one longer one. And I carry some converter for the power. I guess I should do like a visual tour of what I carry. I have a Lenovo ThinkPad, a crappy one. The keyboard died. I had to replace it, but it was great to replace that keyboard in Vietnam because it was basically the cost of the part in the US, which I was gonna do when I went back to the US. But I'm glad I did it. And just kept the same laptop. I guess I would replace this laptop as well. So I would basically just upgrade everything I have. Like I would upgrade all the things to better phones, to better laptop, to better clothes. Like just higher quality things like better shoes, better everything. Like even my watch, even though like the Casio like old school metal watch is my favorite, I might get a like a just like $100 Seiko or something like this. But at the same time, those watches are not as n- I like the utility of a simple watch. Even like I guess you could call it a smartwatch. I never had one, so maybe I should try it eventually. But I'm not sure it would add that much value to me personally if it's mainly used for notifications and for health stuff. I guess the health stuff it is useful, so maybe that is the one reason to get one. Um, but the other pro of like having kind of not the best gear is that I'm not that scared. I'm more scared of the contents of them, obviously, like the security implications and losing the information and having to replace the actual value of the items is basically not as high as it would be if I added, for example, a Mac, right, or a better iPhone. My iPhone is one of the crappiest ones. It's basically the SE a couple versions back. I had bought a replacement for the newer version, not the latest one, but the one before it, the same form factor as mine. And I decided I didn't need it, but I'm thinking back on it because I didn't want to carry two iPhones again, right? Um, but I decided maybe I should have kept it because I think it's such a useful tool to have like a eSIM and it's not that much bulk. So that's one thing I might add, like just another phone, a better iPad with more storage because mine has 32 gigs of storage, which is like some, I could upgrade my laptop to have 32 gigs of RAM, and I almost did in Vietnam as well, but I didn't because I was like, I don't really need it. I have 16, it's enough, but I think I should have upgraded that just because of apps like After Effects and my swap keeps getting used and using up my hard drive. Um, what else would I upgrade? Obviously, the hard drive of my laptop I would also upgrade, but it has a weird small SSD and a big one. So it has two SSDs, but the main one that keeps running out is the one where the operating system, and because I'm dual booting Linux, I'm using up more than I would normally. What else would I upgrade? Yeah, just basically not that much. And more, I'm kind of became more ruthless of how to get rid of things I don't really need, right? Like even though I carry two phones, they're exactly the same model, so I only carry one case and I just switch between them if I need the case for the other phone and I'm carrying it. I thought about getting another case for the other phone, but it's not needed. Just would be nice so that like, when I drop it, it doesn't break. But normally I wouldn't be using both phones, but now I'm using both phones more because I'm doing recordings and I charge one while I use the other one. But minimalism for me, I think, has been like a great tool. I was kind of like it was a forcing function for me to get out of San Francisco and not spend so much money. So basically, um, took a whole month to do that moving out process, or more, maybe 2 months actually. I don't remember exactly, but all I remember is that when I talked to my friend about it, should I try to make more money from selling my stuff, or just get out as quickly as possible? His suggestion was just to sell as quickly as possible and get out as quickly as possible, and that's what I took. And I think that was a great advice, some great advice. Even though I had some really nice items that maybe I could have gotten more money if I sold them myself instead of selling some of my stuff to resellers, which actually gave me an appreciation for resellers. People always hate on them, but now I wouldn't feel so bad about being a reseller myself because I saw the value they add. Like I had a collection of video games, and some reseller actually helped me um, basically I took a bunch of pictures of everything. I had so many games on different systems, PS3, DS, whatever you name it. I basically had like old school games and NES games. I love video games, right? Just the concept of them and the art and etc., the technical aspect. But anyway, somebody took the time to who's reseller, but they couldn't take on more collections at that point in time. And they said, here's the list, and here's what they go on this website that everybody uses, but most people don't know to see what the market is saying this is worth. And you should probably try to get at least 50% of the value, right, of the collection. in to a reseller if you sell it to them that you would normally get if you sold it yourself. And so even though you're losing a lot, right? But you're not doing the individual work, which I try to do, like listing some games that might not only go for like $20. But if you sell those higher end games, the lower end games, some people might not take the whole collection. And so I just decided to sell it as a collection. And I was lucky enough to be able to do that. I did the same thing with other things that I had, like books and my collectibles and all these things. I was able to sell like these figures that I still love. Like I love the company Hot Toys and all these high end um, Prime One statues type stuff. I love them. I think they're awesome. I think they're great. And I couldn't afford a lot of them, but I could afford some of them. And I would still buy like one of them, right? Like I might buy one hot toy if I ever settle and just have one. Not, I don't need a lot of them, but the disease always gets you. You know, there's this joke about hot toy people and how they collect and collect and collect. And I can see that happening very easily. You know, you just keep filling up your shelf space until you basically run out of space. But they are really cool. I mean, there's a reason why people love buying those, right? They're just like incredibly made, well made, and really cool pieces of art. But to be honest, I also love the bootleg scene of all these toys that people or companies have made. I love looking at those videos and just the problem with my mind is it gets obsessed over like fashion and like clothing and menswear. I also got obsessed over that too. And so my mind has always been very obsessive and extreme and wanting to just know what the best value you can get for the highest quality, like the quote unquote, like the Grand Seiko, for example, is one example where you can have a high quality watch, but which I never owned one, but I did own like some Seiko watches that I really loved that were more than $100, but not, you know, thousands of dollars. And so, and you know, maybe one mistake was to never have bought like a high end watch because a high end watch, I guess, could potentially retain its value. And that's one thing I noticed when I was reselling stuff. People would want to buy watches, but not the really low end ones. At the end of the day, I think I do like watches. I think I can appreciate them, but I think the diminishing returns are really high in terms of like what I can discern the difference between them. You know, one of the things I did try to do is check out the replica watches in Asia, but just because I was curious to see how cool they looked in person, but I didn't really spend that much time doing that, and I didn't find anything that I was blown away by. Um, so I think like for me, the sweet spot for a watch is probably like $500 or $700 maybe for some certain Hamilton that I always wanted, and maybe yeah, like I'm thinking if I had a job again that paid well in the software engineering realm, and what would I buy back, and what would I spend my money on, if any possession things, anything materialistic. um it would be very few things. Like I did have also some high-end headphones, right? Like I had Odyssey LCD 2, I think they're called, and some really nice what do you call it, um amplifier. And I think the company's called Shit, Shiit, and they make Lir. I think it's maybe the one that I had. And when I was selling it, I had Sennheiser HC6XX, the version that was on Mono, whatever, the website that sells things at a discount. I bought some of those, and somebody had asked me who was interested in. I think they worked at Adobe. They're really cool, really nice. They bought a few things, and they were just awesome to talk to. But they asked me, "Do you think there's actually like a difference between those two headphones that you have, or the different headphones?" And at first I was like thinking no, but then that prompted me to listen to the headphones again, and I realized actually there is a difference, and I can see why people also get obsessed over headphones, right? Like the Sennheiser HD 800s or whatever were the pinnacle of headphones at one point, and then people probably came up with new ones I don't know about. But in any case, um, even though the Auto Pros, the little tiny headphones that are really small and blue and kind of break easily, I had those too. They're really cool. I do think that the crazy ones, there is a difference, maybe not justifiable, right? But I would, if I was making good money, I would probably buy those again or something similar to them. I think I would enjoy that because I love music and listening to music. Like I said, maybe I never had an OLED TV, but I might buy a TV. I always thought about buying one, right? Like to have a monitor and a TV that was not too big, but just as a monitor. Because I mean, at one point I got a really good deal on 55-inch TVs, and I bought three of them through work that I was doing to use for my setup at home, and they were really nice. But I think it wasn't like two is enough, three is too much, and 55 is probably too much. I also had like a 42-inch TV that I used as a monitor, and I think that was more useful, but or it was probably maybe a better sweet spot. And so, and that's like a $200 TV. Same with the 55-inch ones, right? Like I got really good deals back then for good enough for a monitor usage, 4K with the that that requirement that you need for the text to render sharply. But I never had an OLED TV, and I always wonder what it would be like to have one. I guess at the end of the day, I always go into this loop of like wanting some material thing, but then I realized I don't use it that much. Like buying a Switch back then, I had all these games that were really cool, but I never played them, right? Like I never completed most of the games. I only completed the things like even books, right? Like I completed digital versions of books during my time off more so than when I had a huge library, and I completed some video games when on my like emulators instead of when like instead of instead of completing the version that was like on the cartridge, I would just play the emulator version of of a game, for example. So it didn't really matter that I owned like all these physical versions of games when I was too lazy to sometimes load them up. Um, but games that I mean, there's some games that I just like because they're so simple. Like I purchased some Steam games with motorcycles, right? And I forget the names of them now, but there's one that runs okay on my laptop. And now that I'm doing my no consumption, I'm not playing it, but I love playing that game. I don't play that much anyway, but I do love playing that game. From like once every couple months, I'll pull it out and play that game, and it's really fun. Like I actually carry a Xbox controller as well. Actually, I forgot about that. It's one of the bulkier things. I had bought like a mini version of that controller that's really small, but it's literally like the size of smaller than a credit card, right? But it doesn't work that well. It's not very ergonomic. So I was gonna buy the version for of that company that makes like kind of like a Super Nintendo, but with joysticks. I forget what it's called, but it's really high end, and it's a third party company, not like one of the official ones, but they make it for PC as well. And I liked it because it was minimal, but I just carried the Xbox One controller because I already had it, and two, it's I can play games, or if I develop when I was developing my own game and I made my own game, I was using it to test it. And I also bought one that you put on your phone, and actually that one was even more bulky than the Xbox controller. But honestly, it was actually pretty fun to use my phone as a consumption device for playing games. Because I used to love the Steam Deck. That's one thing I missed. I love the Steam Deck. I didn't use it as much as maybe some people would, but I did use it more than my gaming desktop or gaming computer. It's just a better form factor, I think, and you can play games that you wouldn't otherwise play, especially if you can't use the mouse as much. Like myself, I don't like using the mouse because it gives me more carpal tunnel syndrome for shooters, so I prefer to use a controller, but or a trackpad, which is not as good, or a ball, or whatever the mouse is that has a little ball in it. Um, I don't think, yeah, it, I don't think I'm the type of person can play those games for long periods of time, unfortunately or fortunately. And so the Steam Deck, I can play some things like Fear, and other games that you couldn't easily map on an Xbox controller, but you could somehow map them to the Steam controller, which is an amazing technology. You know, the Steam OS is so cool, and like how good it is at emulating stuff. But in general, I would probably get. I even thought about carrying a Steam Deck, but I don't. A Switch would be more practical, but I still don't. It would be cool, but I know that I wouldn't use it that much. But anyway, the thing that surrounds the phone, I don't carry it anymore, but I do think it was really cool. If I had like more stable internet and region that could have the Xbox cloud thing, that was really cool. I used to do that on the Steam Deck as well and on my phone. And honestly, on the phone is pretty good. Like for playing like Forza or those racing games, I love that too. Like that's one of my other favorite games that I don't play anymore. But I like those simple games that are not they can just loop over and not worry too much and pay too much attention, like more casual, like FIFA, but casually, and the racing games for cars and for motorcycles, simple like shoot 'em up type of games I like. I also like platformers, but not as I'm not as yeah. Now that I'm talking about them, I do like them. I wanna go try them out, but I guess I just get excited and then I'll play them and then I'll lose interest because they're actually really difficult sometimes, right? To actually get good at some of these games. Like I like Celeste. I started to play that one again, and it was actually pretty cool. So I do love video games. I just never was as addicted to them as maybe some other people get to. But anyway, in terms of minimalism, I realize that I get excited by stuff like clothes, everything, books, art supplies, and then I end up not using it, or it just gathers dust and it becomes a burden. So I'm glad that I'm, in some ways, quote unquote, forced to be a minimalist. But two, I wish I could keep this habit for the long term and never accumulate so much that I don't use, and accumulate more like, okay, and replace or the one in, one out rule type of idea, or at least, let's give this hobby a try. Am I actually using it? No. Okay, let's minimize now, and be one thing I think was part of the problem is I had a big space. I was lucky enough to have a big studio, empty, basically no rooms, but just a one big space. It would have probably been better if it had been like a two-bedroom, and then I could have roommates. But um, with this, when you expand into the space you have, it's one of the realizations I have. So if I have less space, a small space might be like a tool to use to not like I used to use like a fitted clothes like that doesn't stretch, so I wouldn't stretch in, beyond, and not wear any I don't know, pants or sorry, not any I guess you could call them joggers or that type of clothes um, that stretch, so you could keep yourself and your body inside the clothes as much as possible, or know that you are gaining too much weight is a tool that I liked. So like fitted clothes like sport jackets and things like this. But same thing with your space in your house or your apartment, right? To have limited space so you don't stretch outside of it. Because at one point, I was even asking my landlord about the storage units downstairs that they had, and I was like, and he was like, "What do you even need more space?" I was like, "Oh, you're right." So I didn't end up using them, but he's gonna charge me anyway for them, so it was worth it. Not it was not worth it at all. But yeah, to have expanded so much, and I can't believe I got through all that stuff. It was kind of a crazy journey. I guess I should have taken more photos. I do have some, maybe I'll post those somewhere someday.